Hi, I'm Christina, and this is a book review of Private Rites by Julia Armfield. So this is her brand new book. It was published in 2024, and this is one of those books that really transcends genres. So I would say this is literary fiction, it's dystopian fiction, it's climate fiction, and it's also a horror novel at times too. So let me tell you a little bit more about the story. So we have three main characters. They are all sisters, and their father has recently passed away. Now, they all have an estranged relationship with their father, and they all have difficult relationships with one another too. So we have Isla, Irene and Agnes. Isla and Irene are just 1 year apart. One of them's 34 and one of them's 33. And then Agnes, the youngest, is 10 years younger. She's 23 years old, and she also has a different mother than the two older girls. Now, there's always been a lot of tension in the family, and that is because the father divorced his first wife, and only 10 months later his second wife had a baby, which was Agnes. So there's a lot of kind of difficulties there in this kind of family dynamic. So in this story, people are living through a climate crisis, and it's taken the form of severe flooding. So their father was an architect, and he was very famous and very well renowned in his field because he designed buildings that would withstand substantial flooding. So he also became very wealthy, and a lot of the story is to do with these three women and not really wanting to take the money from their father or be associated with him in any way. And then obviously once he dies, they all have to come together and they have to talk to one another, they have to arrange the funeral, they have to contact people. There's lots of things that they have to do. They have to decide what they're going to do with his house, etc., see what is in his will. So for the first time, really, they are being forced to spend a lot of time with one another and to make decisions together and work as a team, essentially, to decide what's going to happen. And this story really has a lot of themes. One of the big themes, I would say, is definitely family and relationships. And we look at lots of different relationships. So we very much look at the kind of father-daughter relationship and those kind of relationships that are quite estranged and the kind of the difficulties between that. And then we also look at the sibling relationships between all of the sisters and all the kind of complexities and nuances which are in their relationships. And then we also look at romantic relationships too, and all of the women are in kind of different stages of their lives in terms of their relationships. So one of them is struggling through divorce proceedings. Her relationship is over and she's trying to come to terms with that, and she's trying to move on and get through the divorce and everything that that involves. One of the other sisters is in a very stable relationship. She seems very happy in that relationship, but some cracks are probably starting to show because of these unprecedented times and everything that's going on in this story. And then the youngest sister is in a brand new blossoming relationship. So we're looking at all of that too. And there's also the themes, obviously, of we're looking at kind of climate change. We're looking at how people respond to the difficulties with a climate crisis and just kind of how people will keep going, and looking at that from like a capitalist angle as well, in the sense that it's not post-apocalyptic, obviously, but it's kind of going towards the world ending as we know it, and yet everyone's still trying to do their job and still trying to travel into places even when all these sort of infrastructures are starting to break down. So that's an interesting look on that. And I would also say I just absolutely love her writing. I have read her previous book, so I read Our Wives Under the Sea, which I absolutely loved. I gave that one 5 stars, and it was one of my best books in the year in which I read it. And then that was why I was definitely going to read whatever she published next, which is this one. And I haven't enjoyed this one quite as much, I would say. I've given this one 4 stars, but I did really, really, really enjoy the other one. And like I say, I've enjoyed this one. It's 4 stars. It is a good book, but it just wasn't quite as good for me as Our Wives Under the Sea. I absolutely love that. But everything I really enjoyed about that book is in this book too, in the sense that she has beautiful, beautiful writing. I absolutely love the way she writes. It is a joy to read her sentences. They are really, really beautiful. And yeah, I had quite a good time with it, and it's quite dark in places too. And like I said before about it kind of transcending genres, it does lots of different things, which is good. And I have to say that it didn't go the way I expected it to go in terms of the kind of horror aspect of it, because obviously with Our Wives of Under the Sea we have a little bit of a horror element too, and I definitely think this is here as well. And I just kind of thought this was a story about people and family dynamics and kind of relationship dynamics, and watching all of that unfold in a world where people are struggling with a climate crisis. And also obviously the theme of grief and death are really, really big, and also the idea of people grieving for someone who they had a very difficult relationship with, and all of the emotions that kind of come up with that. It isn't just, you know, sadness and all of those things. There's also kind of potentially relief and all of these complicated emotions that will come up when somebody dies and you maybe didn't have a brilliant relationship with them when they were alive. So yeah, I enjoyed this one. I definitely think it's worth a read, and it's definitely went somewhere I wasn't expecting, which is quite interesting. I don't want to tell you the kind of themes because I think they'd be considered spoilers, but yeah, it was a good read. I enjoyed it. The writing is, as always, absolutely beautiful. So if you're kind of looking for a literary fiction with like emphasis on kind of like climate fiction with kind of like family dynamics and sibling dynamics, I think you'll really enjoy this one. So also just kind of thinking about the structure of the book, this book is set into 2 parts. And in the first part, we hear from 3 different perspectives. We hear from each of the sisters in turn. And then in the second part, we also hear from 2 other perspectives. We hear from Jude, who is one of the partners, and we also hear from Stephanie, who is one of the other partners. And then there's also a perspective of the city itself, which I quite liked. It was quite interesting. So you very much get a kind of rounded version of the story, in the sense that you aren't just hearing the story from one of the sisters' perspectives. You hear from each of the 3 sisters in turn, and you can see how they all view each other and how things that were said and how things are then related to one another. So you get all 3 people's perspective, which is interesting. And then obviously you have the 2 partners' perspectives in the next part of the book. And obviously you don't get the perspective of the partner who is going through divorce proceedings, because they're very much not in the lives of these characters anymore because they get in a divorce. So you hear from the 2 partners who are actually in relationships with each other. And then, like I said, you also hear from the city itself. And yeah, I did enjoy this one. I think it was good, and I would recommend that you read it if it sounds interesting to you. So yeah, I think I will definitely be reading more by her. I really do like her writing style. And I also have the first book that she published, Salt Slow, that I need to read soon. So I'm looking forward to reading that one too. So yeah, I would love to hear what you thought of this one down in the comments below. And if you like this video, please do like it. And if you'd like to hear more of me talking about books, please do subscribe. I'll see you in my next one.